Oh, back for another episode. This is episode 3. Big Paul going over neighborhood friendly coach, trainer, promoter Zach Primetime Reed with the 7 foot. Big Paul is Adora. And Paul, the technical difficulties of sitting in the living room. How you doing tonight, brother?
I'm doing good, man. I'm glad we got it all ironed out, and hopefully we're ready to rock and roll. I have came inside today instead of being in the outside space.
It's cold
Uh,
out there.
so I'm just hoping that I don't get any disturbances. So hopefully,
Oh, I'll get
hopefully we don't get too loud um, on this end. Hopefully there's no screaming and yelling and stuff. So
like, share, comment, and subscribe. Get us out of our home living rooms so we can get in a studio and get some real studio time to tell you all about your professional wrestling needs. Paul, hey man, what are we talking about today?
I think today, man, I feel like we've gone over about how to get into the business. We've talked a little bit about how to when you should start, when you should get your debut, things like that. But I think it's important that we also talk about how do we grow? How do we grow our businesses? Maybe how do we grow um, as a character? Like how do you grow your brand? So in our case, we're each running um, a wrestling school. We're running an independent wrestling promotion. Um, so how about in terms of expanding your business as far as your independent wrestling business? So I know that for me, I'm based here in Reno, Nevada. We run in a building just on the outskirts in a town called Sparks. Um, so I wouldn't say that I'm expanding as much as I'm kind of that's my home base. But um, let's talk about how we try to make our business bigger. How do we reach other maybe communities or how far would you be willing to go take your business to try to reach other towns? So what would you think about that? How far away do you go with your business?
It just varies. Like we've done shows with the festivals. We've done Stockton, we've done San Jose, we've done Sacramento. We're based out of Yuba City, California. Our home base for a show has been for almost 20 years now. It used to be the Oroville Municipal Auditorium. Now it's the Oroville Convention Center. We've run in Gridley, which is about 15, 20 minutes before and about 20 minutes past Yuba City. We've run in Chico. We run in Red Bluff. And now we're thinking about moving on into Redding, California. So, I mean, it just varies when you're running your business. You get your home base and you kind of get on the map and you say, okay, here's the location of where we run. In your case, it would be Sparks. And then you kind of just put like a 200-mile radius, a 200-mile circumference circle around that area. And that's your broad outreach that you're reaching out to. So basically, you're saying in that circle radius right there, you're willing to go 200 miles within that circular circumference of where your home base of your promotion, where your promotion is. Also for us too, we drag up 70 and we drag up 99. So it's like we're heading up 99 and we're heading away from everything else. So we're heading away from Sacramento. We're heading away from Yuba City. We're going where there is nothing. And the goal is pretty much to stop when we get within a 200-mile radius of another promotion, whether that hits up in Oregon or Washington or whatever we're going to do. How about you on that circumference area?
Yes, I mean I think like the furthest that we've gone from here was Elko. That's 4 hours east of here. So maybe a little bit further than 200 miles, maybe 250 miles or something. But it's I had this bright idea years ago how it would be really cool to have started kind of as far east in Nevada as we could on 80. Obviously, you're talking about 70 and 99. So for us, it's 80. We're traveling east and west. Um, we're about as far west as you can kind of go in Nevada on 80. It's just a stone's throw from here before you kind of cross into California in like the Truckee area and things like that. But for us, I thought it would be great to start in like West Wendover, which is like far, far east in Nevada, and work my way back this way. So if you could get to a point where you're doing like a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, um, and end up in Reno. And I even thought about having 12 shows in 14 days, and have 6 matches, and just kind of have the card rotate, right? So everybody gets 2 opportunities to be in each spot, right? You're opening the show one night, then you work the second match, third match, fourth match, fifth match, and then the sixth match is going to be the main event. And you could even make it, for some fictitious title that you're going to defend in this town, to make it a big deal. You're going to get to see the title match or whatever, and it gives you an opportunity to maybe even work with the same guy the whole loop, and get some guys an opportunity to work on different parts of the card and kind of refine what they're trying to do. But I think that's kind of a big dream at this point. So at this point, we've done Elko, 4 hours east. We've done Winnemucca, which is 2 hours east. We've done Lovelock, about 100 miles east. So just trying to hit those towns, right? That I think, I feel like it's we refer to it as small town Nevada. So it's a lot of and when people when you ask people where you're from, oh, I'm from small town Nevada, you wouldn't know where I'm from. I'm from some little town of a couple thousand people or something like that. So that's kind of the goal for me. I just want to try to keep hitting those towns that I've been doing, and then I want to try to get some other towns. Fernley Fallon, those are like 45, a little over an hour away, things like that. But I guess the problem is, how do you develop those type of towns? Like, because if you're talking about marketing, putting up posters, flyers, selling tickets, hand to hand, how do you cover those type of areas? You're talking about going 200 miles outside of, where you're at. So how do you get out there and market those towns to try to drive your business into that area and hit some of those people that maybe, in most cases, I would say they probably don't get to see those big wrestling promotions. Maybe they watch it on TV, and maybe it would be a huge deal if you came to their town and put on a wrestling show. So how do you go about getting out there and marketing those shows so it's not just you're not just saying, hey, I did a show in this town. You want to say I did a show in this town and I turned a profit on that show. So how do you look at that from a business standpoint?
Well, my friend, the answer is very simple, and there are many answers to this. One, the training facility is very important, because as a promotion, you can expand as far as the employees or the students that you have. So, I mean, we have the adult dudes, Arsonist, Don Stockton, Cash, ring announcer Zach Bay, Buck, Wild Buck James. We have, we just Angel Escobar, Cordero, the Killer Gorilla, Uloa. We got about 8 or 9 guys in Red Bluff, and Red Bluff is a good sized place in between Chico and Redding, but it's also a hotbed where there's nothing going on. So those guys handle the promotions. They handle the tickets, they handle the posters, they handle the flyers, and they draw well, and they get paid well by myself for the work that they put in. Because I mean, there's a lot of promoters out there who are gonna use somebody to get the seats filled up in their town and say, "Hey, thank you," or "Here's $5 off tickets for all the work you guys did." No, I mean, they could honestly do that themselves if they purchased a wrestling ring. So you got to take care of your talent in that end. So we utilized the school in what towns we're in. We got a couple new people from Reading. That's why I'm saying expanding to Reading. We got a good base in Chico. We got a good base in Gridley and Oroville. We got some guys here in town. We got some guys that come from your area. So you definitely got to utilize having guys in that town that can promote. Word of mouth is big, and beating the streets, man. You cannot go wrong with beating the streets, getting out there in front of the Walmarts, the Costcos, the Wincos, the Sam's Clubs, the malls. Another big promotion, and you're going to have to spend some time in the vehicle and making some driving if you're not just going to pay for advertisements or billboards or stuff like that. But you got to go on there, and I'm giving this away right now. You got to find family events that are going on the weekends. And a lot of family events are family events that aren't going to be chargeable, whether they're going to be strolls or peach festivals or taco festivals or something hot, trunk or treat for the kids, parades. You got to find events where the community is going to come together in that town, and you have to go down there and you have to be prepared. You have to have the show flyer. You have to have the flyer on the back for the school or the flyer on the back for the YouTube channel. Having this for going over is having a flyer for this, which I'm going to be getting made for soon, is going to be very big because we're going to be able to get out into our towns. You can promote it in Reno. I can promote it in my area, and we can promote it at both of our shows. And it's as simple as people just hitting that little QR scan button on their phone, and it's going to send them right to our podcast. It sends them right to your YouTube channel to watch your show if you got a weekly show. And most importantly, when you're expanding to these towns, you are looking to generate 0.01%. 0.01% is probably going to turn you a little bit of money in these towns. But if you can generate, the golden rule is if you can generate 1% of a city or a town's population, then you're in some pretty good business here. I know when we're in Red Bluff right now, we're drawing 300 to 400 fans, and we just switched from the Tehama County Fairgrounds at the auditorium over to the community center, which is a better venue, and we're pretty damn close, if not at 1% of that town, getting them in there. So when you see bigger promotions running in bigger cities, like if you're running in Sacramento, San Diego, anywhere in a big city in the Bay Area, Los Angeles, and you're not drawing 1,000 to 5,000 people to your show, you have so many different people to draw from, but also in the same sense, there's a lot more going on in those big cities. So you have to take into account when you're trying to build something. Do you want the exposure where the hubs of the airports are and the big cities? Or do you want to go somewhere where nothing is going on and you can draw from the town, whether they're diehard wrestling fans, which I don't really care about because all the marquee chanting really annoys me because they're not really into the heels and the babies of the match? Or do you want to generate real families and real wrestling fans that are going to come out and boo and cheer you just like in the old school days? So I believe you. Most importantly, you have to get out there. And if you don't have the money to do full-on promotions and billboards and commercials and everything like that, you got to get out there and you got to put the work in the streets.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I know that obviously, over the last 20 years, 25 years for you, that's been a constant for you, like, starting from running a couple shows a year, building anticipation in a town to try to get, fans to get excited, right? I think kind of the biggest fear for me is, you have something going on a monthly basis and people can go, oh, well, I'll just check it out next month, or you know, I'll skip this month and I'll catch up later or whatever. So you know, trying to build some anticipation of what's going on, and obviously, you know, you touched a little bit on the storytelling aspect of you know, it's just the way that you and I think about how a wrestling show should run. But you know, a lot of people look at it as an old school, you know, oh, that's the olden days. It doesn't work like that anymore. Of the good versus evil, and you know, trying to get the baby face and heel right. So trying to tell those stories that the fans can come and really get behind. And you know, I'm going to cheer for this guy because you know he's my favorite wrestler, and you know, and he's trying to overcome the evil wrestler who's you know doing the dastardly deeds, and you know, coming in and doing those things that you want to boo for, right? Really telling that story of good versus evil. So you know, I definitely want to try to get into that thought process, right? Of really telling those stories. And you know, you hear all these people that are like, oh well, you know, how awesome was it when they used to do the you know the long term storytelling, but you know that doesn't work anymore because people's short attention span. And then you see you know things happen on TV that are strung out for you know over a year, and people are like, oh, this is so great, and blah blah blah. And it's like, well, yeah, that does work still. You can still get fans invested in doing you know that type of storyline, and you know weaving things in and getting the fans excited. You know, but definitely trying to expand. That gives you that a little bit more opportunity to you know, somebody can't go, oh, I'll skip this month and I'll see it next month, because maybe you're not going to be in that town next month. You know, maybe you're going to a different set of towns the next month, and you know, and obviously having those small towns where you can kind of go and they got nothing better to do, and they're going to come and have a great time, and you can kind of build that fan base based off of that, and you know, try to work to that the point where you're getting you know 1% of the population to show up to a wrestling show because you're doing it every 3 months or every 4 months, where they're you know building that anticipation. Like, man, I can't wait till they got these guys come back so I can come check this out again, and you know, and just trying to build that fan base so you can get that moving that way. So so I don't know, man, like what obviously that's something that you really like to do, is you like to try to build that the storyline stuff, and story arcs over a long period of time where you know things pay off um, over the course of months or years or whatever, where people are just kind of following that story and getting hooked on it. So how do you go about you know putting that type of stuff together? Because obviously you're trying to weave guys that have been around for a while with guys that are kind of coming in, and then obviously you got to kind of keep your eye on what's going on throughout the whole scene, right? So you know who you can put into these different scenarios. So talk a little bit about how you go about doing that, and how that kind of relates to how you're able to expand your business.
Well, you have to excuse me, you have to still tell the story. The story is what people tune into, man. You could do all the action, you could do all the big moves, you could just have a wrestling card put together, and a lot of times there's not a big audience at these shows, and I think a lot of it comes down to audience participation. So you have to get heels, you have to get villains, you have to get bad guys that piss the audience off. They can't like this guy. And in turn, they're going to be able to get behind and cheer somebody else. So it's just one of those things where, you know, a lot of people don't know how to build a story because they don't understand psychology. They don't understand storytelling, and they don't understand the patience it takes. There's too much one night booking going on out there where people are like, all right, we're going to speed this up. We're going to just change this title to change this title. We're going to run this story. We're going to have a heel turn just because we think it's a good idea. You have to let the audience dictate what they want to see. The audience is going to tell you who they like. The audience is going to tell you who they don't like. The audience is going to tell you when they are bored to shit of what you're doing and it's time to take it home. You know what I mean? We're going home right here because we don't want to see this shit anymore. And I've seen too many times at a show where they run a story or they do an angle, but they're just doing an angle or a story out of nowhere. And a lot of it is an angle. The guys are like, hey, we're gonna run an angle here tonight. You know, we're in this town and we're in the Bay Area and we don't like Sacramento. So we're gonna wear our Sacramento Kings jerseys, or we're gonna wear a 49ers or a Raiders jersey or whatever. And they get the cheap heat, or they run an angle for a night. And you got to be really committed, man, because you got to think about this. You're trying to get these people to come watch your event, and you're trying to get them interacting with the character, because that's where it starts. It starts with the guy walking out the curtain and not just worried about the wrestling match. Because how many shows, because I see it all the time, I see these guys, I've said it before, they come out and their entrance is just totally working the audience on their entrance. And then the bell rings, and we have completely spaced the fact that now we are trying to engage and entertain these people that have paid their hard-earned money to come watch us every time. And if you do not get the crowd reacting to what you're doing, so when the audience chants, holy shit, because somebody dove off a ladder or took a big move off the apron or to the floor, that holy shit chant, which a lot of people are like, man, that felt so good to hear that holy shit chant. That holy shit chant is because you almost fucking died, bro. Like, you're like, fuck, this motherfucker almost died. This fucking idiot right here almost died, and he's not even going to be able to pay his PG&E note. You know what I mean? But then you take 80,000 people at WrestleMania, and I always look at this example. And you got Goldberg and you got Brock Lesnar standing face to face in a huge stadium in front of 80,000 in the whole world watching, and 80,000 people are chanting, holy shit. Now that's the holy shit chant you want, because these motherfuckers haven't even touched each other yet. They haven't even touched each other yet. And 80,000 people are chanting the same thing that fucking 6,000 people are chanting for some guy who just risked his life. So when you are trying to fill this building, you're going to have to put the work into the promotion 100%. You're going to have to build characters. There's going to have to be conflicts. There's issues. There's arcs. Is there ever resolutions? I mean, to be honest with you, there shouldn't be. There shouldn't be a lot of resolutions. And if it looks like there's a resolution, it should be brief enough that there's a new conflict starting to keep you interested in coming back. Because too many times have I seen, and in our promotion too. I mean, we had the building up, and fans were coming in, and they were there. They wanted to see the Nightmare Sin become the champion, and the chase to get him to that championship was drawing some pretty good numbers locally. And the second we put the belt on him, they got what they wanted. They were just like, "Oh, fuck it, yeah, whatever. That's what we wanted." It's like the end of a movie where there's going to be no sequel. If you don't leave them on a cliffhanger, or you don't leave this audience with the question of why the fuck should I come back? Why the fuck should they come back? If you're running the same venue every month, it's just like you said. I'll catch it next month. So I mean, that's what I'm saying. So we run if we're running in Yuba City, Oroville, and Red Bluff. We're just leaving Chico out of this for right now. So if we're drawing 300-400 in Red Bluff, and then we're drawing, 300-400 in Yuba City, and we're drawing 300 or 400 in Oroville, well, if we do the big show where the guys from Red Bluff, the fans from Red Bluff want to see this major conflict in this big championship match or this big rivalry match that they've been waiting for, and the people from Yuba City want to see this big rivalry match, and this show is held in Oroville with the big Titantron and the sound and the fan base. Well, our biggest fan base is in Oroville. So if we can generate those fans from Red Bluff driving an hour to Oroville and these fans from Yuba City and in between coming 45, 50 minutes to Oroville and the base in Oroville, if we can get all those people and those three towns and the towns in between, the little towns in between, coming to one event, meeting in the middle to watch this big event with all these matches that they are, or a big match that they want to see, then you're like, oh shit, we sold the building out tonight. We upped tickets a little bit. We made some good money. Now the wrestlers can get a little bit of extra pay off the gate because we had a good gate. We had a good online sale. The concessions and the merchandise did well. So, and that's another thing that I think is missing from the wrestling nowadays when we talk about the business. I mean, a lot of people are so hesitant to pay the wrestlers. A lot of people are so, and a lot of people talk about it. They go, hey, you got to pay the wrestlers to get the better wrestlers, and you got to pay your talent in order to draw, which I don't know if there's very many draws anymore in the business, unless you get, a local person in the company that goes out and sells 40, 50 tickets himself. But a lot of people and a lot of promoters are worried about, like, oh man, I got to use my own money to pay for something, or I gotta, uh, I don't know if we're going to be able to pay the boys. A lot of things I've heard over the years is a lot of people don't have, uh, they're relying on the ticket sales at the door and the concession stand to finish out paying the guys. And I've always been a firm believer, if I can't put every dime, if I can't put every dollar in that envelope, if I can't pay for the building, the security deposit, if I can't pay for the insurance, if I can't pay for the food, the gas, the labor, the tickets, the posters, on and on. If I can't pay for that entire show before I book that show, then to be just realistic, I shouldn't be running that show. And I know that's something that me and you talk about a lot, is people running shows when they don't have the money to run a show.
Right. Man, you talked about so many things that just kind of sparked me a little bit. So, I think the first one was, talking about building stories, right? And on our last episode, we talked about, young guys in the business and kind of what their role is. We talked about squash matches a little bit, but as far as the storytelling stuff, I know that you and I were just watching a storyline that you and I were involved in. It just happened to be at your company. And I think you have guys that are, maybe a little more seasoned. They've been in the business a little bit longer. And they're very hesitant to maybe be involved in a squash match, get squashed, have a match that's only going to go a couple minutes, or they don't want to be involved in some sort of storyline that's going to be like a one segment thing on a show, right? You're going to be, cutting a promo or something, and somebody cuts you off and does some damage and leaves you laying, right? A lot of people are so hesitant to go to a show if they're not going to get to wrestle for their 8 to 10 minutes, right? They don't want to have that scenario where, I don't want to go to this show if I'm going to only be involved in one segment and I'm going to get attacked from behind and left laying, and that's all I get to do that night. Almost like they're too good to do that, right? They're too good to be put in that situation, and there's no big picture thinking when it comes to, you're talking about drawing fans from all these different places, right? Coming to see one one match or one story arc or something like that. So talk about how important that is, that you have those stories, whether it's the brand new guy who's getting squashed and you're going to work something into where he's going to start getting a little bit
Uh-oh.
of more offense on each each
There you are.
show. It Yeah, so I don't talk about how you're going to get those story arcs that are going to build in that sense like that. Whether it's those younger guys that are getting squashed and you're going to build them to something where they're getting a little bit of push and get them a little bit more opportunities to kind of be the fight from underneath guy, and get to the point where they're putting up a fight, and then maybe they're into where there are having competitive matches, and also kind of tie in what it's like when you're, maybe you're at the top of your game, but there's still going to be a story that you can tell that's going to put you in some sort of danger where you're going to be able to do kind of the same thing, right? You're going to go in and you're just going to get the shit kicked out of you one match or one segment, and then you're going to come back and say, "Oh, that's not going to happen to me again," and then it does happen to you again, and how that builds into being able to draw a big gate. So talk a little bit about that, and then I also wanted to kind of to you had mentioned about you got to bring in these guys, or you have to pay a little bit more money, but um, what's the give and take between bringing guys in that are going to charge a lot of money, that maybe you can do that every couple of months, versus maybe a guy that's fairly good, that's not going to charge as much, but's going to be there every month. um, I guess from a worker wrestler aspect, what should guys be more willing to do? Would you be willing to go, hey, I can come to this promotion and make $200, but this guy's only going to book me every 4 months? Or would you rather come to a promotion where a guy is going to pay you $100, but he's going to book you every single month? You're going to be involved in some storyline, and you can contribute to building a bigger house. And like you said, the bigger house, a lot of times that's going to end up in going, hey, we had a really good night. I know I almost told I was going to pay you $100, but we had a big night, so I'm giving you 200 instead. So how do you weigh that out as a guy that's been around for a long time?
Well, it's the loyalty factor. But if I'm paying somebody $100, if I'm paying somebody $150, they're gonna get that same $150 whether they go out there and wrestle for 10 minutes, 20 minutes, squash match, or if they just come out and do an interview. If you're on my show, if you walk out there and your thing on the night is this a heel and a baby face, B baby face is wrestling, and you're just coming out and sitting at the table and doing commentary, you're gonna get the same pay that you would get if you were wrestling a 20 fucking minute match. You know what I mean? Like that doesn't change anything, the match that you wrestle. And God, I wish I knew what the kid's name was, man. I don't know if he's from SPW or where he's from, but there's a kid that was at the last WCWF show in Yuba City. And first off, he's in the locker room and he's watching the monitor, right? So he's watching this monitor, and I'm like, man, he's really paying attention to the show. And I was thinking, like, what's he doing? His gear wasn't that bad. He could get bigger, but he had a good little physique. He was humble. He's watching the monitor. And I was wondering what he was doing on the show. I never even asked him. I shook his hand when he got there. I don't even know the kid's name. I wish I did, because I'd book him, to be honest with you. And he literally walked out there and got the shit beat out of him by 7-foot Alex Ace in like less than 2 minutes. So I did see a successful squash match here recently. I forgot all about that one. Excuse me, but I remember seeing this kid in the locker room watching the monitor, and I kept thinking, what's he going to do tonight? I've never seen him work. Oh, I wish his name. I wish I knew his name. I think it's Kyrie something. I don't know. I think I've seen him too on the Ugly Dojo blogs training there. So I know he's in Sacramento. He might be at SPW, he might be there. But this kid is watching intently in the locker room. And then he goes out there, and I'm like, huh, what's he doing on the show? He got the shit beat out of him, and he did a great job getting the shit beat out of him. And that boosted Alex Ace up early in the show. So then Alex Ace came out in the main event and wrestled Nathan Brick, and it was one hell of a match. It was the best I've seen Alex Ace do in the ring. Like he was on fire tonight. I think Brick told him to just stay in the middle of the ring, that be here, just be strong. And he did, and it was a great match. But the kid, Kyrie something, man, I'd have to look it up. Do you know who I'm talking about?
I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not familiar with that guy.
God, the kid was so impressive because he was watching on the monitor. But as you're talking about this, like what it takes to get somebody over, well, Ace was over in the main event that night going into that match with Brick because earlier in the night, this kid who was watching all the matches on the fucking monitor came to this show and was told your opportunity tonight is to go out there and get the shit beat out of you in less than 2 minutes. And he was happy to do it. And he helped build this guy and build this main event. So it is the talent like that a kid like that just being willing to do whatever you ask him to do is going to be able to put somebody over that's going to get over at the start of the show in front of the audience and then go back out later in the night as this unstoppable main event 7-foot guy against the company babyface. You know what I mean? So it's just crazy to me that somebody who was being used on this show for 2 minutes, just 2 minutes, impacted so much of the rest of the show, and it goes unnoticed. And I wish I knew the kid's name because that kid was just he did nothing impressive. He just did what was asked of him. You know what I mean? And I think that's a lot of times that's what I'm looking for, and I think that's what a lot of people should be looking for is guys that are willing to get better. Are you willing? Hey man, I got Primetime University over here. Are you willing to just come down on a Thursday night or a Sunday morning and train with the guys and just take some advice and get better? Are you willing to talk to me on the phone? Because I'll talk to you on the phone for 2 or 3 fucking hours. You can ask me all the questions you want, and I'm gonna give you some knowledge, and I'm gonna drop some knowledge on you because it was Schizo, it was Oliver John, it was Roland Alexander, it was Gabe Ramirez, it was all these guys that I'm talking about that were willing to sit with me and drop that knowledge on me. I wanted to learn it, and I wanted to learn how to promote. I wanted to learn how to book. I wanted to learn the psychology and the stories, and I wanted to be the best that I could possibly be. So we overlook some guys on a show because we were sitting here last week and we were talking about, or one of these first 2 episodes about the art of the squash match. And I sat here for a couple weeks and I was like, fuck, there was a kid at the WCWF show who was watching the fucking monitor, asking questions, and was just happy to go out there for fucking less than 2 minutes to get his ass handed to him to elevate the main event that night. And that's where it starts because I ask these guys when they come in, I say, hey, I need you there at 2:00. We got photos, which I'm paying for the photographer. So you got this opportunity to get professional photos. We got to film for Limelight on Saturday. We got to film interviews. We got to film segments. We got to get your stock footage. We got to get your bumpers so you can say, hey, this is Limelight. You're watching PCW. There's so much stuff I need to film within 2 or 3 hours with everyone. Sometimes I got to take group photos different ways if we got a rumble coming up or something. I got to get this stuff. If you can't show up and give me what I need, then I cannot promote you. I need to be able to promote you. So you could give me somebody that goes, man, I need $300. Okay. You want $300? I'm going to need you to go out and turn your fucking phone sideways. And I'm going to need you to give me all these shots at all these places because I need to build you some vignettes. I need to build something for you, for my brand, so I can start to promote you months in advance on my show, on my Instagram, the TikTok, the Facebook, all that shit. You're if I can't promote you, I can't make money off of you. So you just coming to my show to wrestle on my show doesn't mean shit to me. Absolutely shit. And I know you feel the same way because we talk about draw. I hear everybody talk about a draw. It's like, well, who's a draw? I, I I don't know who's a draw because you just had JTG on your show and he wasn't a draw. You know, he was good. He was good in the ring, but he wasn't a draw. Like it didn't up the attendance. We've had MVP. The one time I did bring in names, we had MVP and Al Snow on the same show. And there was 300, 350 normal fans there. And they were happy that these guys were there, but it didn't draw any more asses in the seats. I didn't make any more money off this. As a matter of fact, what I paid for flights and to pay for those guys, I actually lost more money on it. So when people say you got to book people that are a draw, I'm confused by that because we as the promoter have to put the time into the editing to promote the talent to make the audience interested in coming to watch that guy. Just booking a show to be like, all right, I got a field of wrestling show and we're going to put 6 matches on this. That's not, unless you get out there and put a lot of money into advertising or bust your ass on this passing out flyers and selling tickets. You're not gonna book somebody, especially locally, that's gonna I put them on the flyer and all of a sudden I sold 150 online. That doesn't happen, man. That just so the draw is in getting God, and I keep going back to it. Like this podcast was Zach about Zach sucking some fucking kid's dick for going out there and losing for 2 minutes. Really, it is, man. Yeah, I'm blowing this kid right now. I wish I knew his name because I'm giving him an online blowjob because it's so rare that we just find people that are like, you just said it. Hey, man, are you willing to drive a couple hours to beat the shit out of someone? Oh, well, if I'm going to drive that far, I kind of want to wrestle and get some good footage in and some experience. Well, this is the experience. This experience is going to build you up in front of the audience so that you can make some fucking money. You know what I mean? So yeah, you have to get talent, even if they're young talent, that are willing to come in and go, hey man, I trust you and I'm willing to do whatever you ask me to do so that I can learn and I can see in this process how I'm going to get better and how I'm actually, even if I don't believe I am, helping the card and elevating a guy so that this match later in the night is going to mean something because of something I did.
Right, absolutely, man. It's just, I just wonder about how things have changed, right? Because I think that's something that, is something that you're very willing to do. You had me do that for you. Come in, all I need you for is this 2-minute segment, right? That's all I need you to do, and in a sense you go, oh man, I'd really like to be doing something more. But then when you look at that big picture and you go, okay, well, we're doing this not because he only needs me to do 2 minutes on his wrestling show because that's all he thinks I'm worthy of. It's I'm going to do 2 minutes here because then the next month he needs me to do another small segment to further elevate some sort of storyline that you're going into, and then big picture down the road, hey, this is what it's going to end up with: is we're going to draw 1,000 fans to watch this match because they want to see me come back and beat you up, right?
Mhm.
And I think it's just, I think it's very lost, right? And we talked about how some people, you talk about a squash match, and some people shake their head and go, "Yeah, no problem, I'll take care of it for you," but they don't really understand what exactly that means. And then we talked also about like people approaching you and going, "Hey, I was thinking about let's do this that's going to last a number of months, and this is the story that we want to tell," and then going out and just not really coming through with what you're looking for. So do you feel like we're getting into that stage where you have to hold someone's hand and really walk them through step by step exactly what you're looking for them to do um, during your show? Because obviously it's far away from, hey, I just need you to go out there and wrestle a wrestling match tonight on the card, right? That's really, it's not leading into anything. It's not, we're not setting a story up to tell over the next, you know, 6 to 12 months. We're just putting you on the card. You guys are going to wrestle each other and nothing's going to happen. Versus, hey, I got this storyline that's going to go 6 months, 12 months, whatever, and here's the stages that I want it to hit. So you're very much having to write it out and go, hey, this is the story I need you to tell on this show because this is what's going to happen on the next show, uh, because this is what's going to happen in 6 months from now to lead to 12 months from now. This is how it's going to culminate. So do you think how much explanation of your vision as a whole do you feel like we're having to give guys that you want to put in a situation? Do you feel like we're not learning the storytelling aspects at the wrestling schools, or we're not going to a promotion that's doing long-term storylines where you can kind of go, oh shit, man, what you got going the last 3 months? um, I've been so invested in it, right? I'm a wrestler on this show, but man, I just love what these guys are doing. They're telling such a great story that I'm invested in it, even though I'm in the business. Do you feel like we're having to get to that point where we're really holding hands and walking people step by step through what you need to happen versus just going, hey, here's the big picture. Um, you know, Put together what you need to for this night so we can lead into tell this story over this 6 or 9 or 12 months story arc. Do you feel like you have to do that?
100
Explain.
100%, man. And if we as the promoter or the booker are not getting that what we want out of this, and we go, because I know we've had this conversation before, and when I've talked to you, you've been like, man, I didn't know I had to really explain a squash match, or I didn't know I had to really explain this to this person. And it's like, as the promoter and the booker, yes, you do. You have to get a hold of this. I call all my talent that I use and I talk to them on the phone, just like I talk to you almost every day. And I tell them I'll get a hold of the talent. And sometimes I talk to guys a lot. Sometimes it's only one conversation. And I say, here's my dates. Here's where we are. Here's where I want to go. The fun stuff is in the middle. We'll figure that out at shows here or there, but this is where we want to go. Well, do you know the date where it's going to end? I don't, because it's not up to me when this is going to end. It's up to the audience. The audience is going to say, okay, we're ready for a title change. And as the promoter, I have to go, or the booker, I have to go, okay, they're ready for it, but do I give it to them here? Or do I have something else going on tonight that might take away from giving it to them here? So I'm going to wait a little bit more because I can get a little bit more out of this. Like James Haight told me one time. James Haight, one of my good friends, he said, "Hey man," he said, "just keep thinking of shit. Take this story, and when you run out of shit, and the fans are starting to die down on it a little bit, and you don't have any more ideas, then end it. But if you can keep coming up with shit, like you don't have to go, all right, we're gonna do a 6 month program and put the belt on you. Why? If you can get a year, what if you can get a year out of that? What if you can get a year and a half out of that? And what if you get guys that actually go, okay, man, I'm going to be on time at 2 o'clock. I'm going to get all this stuff that you want to get me because I trust and I see what you're doing visually with your show. I see what you're doing with your production. I see because I got a badass high definition entrance video when I walk out. You're doing build up videos for me. You're putting product out there for me. I got to say, there's a signature video to the show. There, I see the stuff that you're filming is going into before my match and after my match. I see what you're doing. There's nothing worse than a promoter going, hey, call time is this. Okay, why? Why am I here? If we're not filming shit that's gonna be used to elevate our personas and our character, and we're not using stuff that's gonna be edited so it can be seen and get exposure out there to build this stuff up, why did I show up at 2 o'clock? The show don't start till fucking 7. Why am I here? Just because you are running a show and you're like, there's a call time. Let's get them here at this time. Like, to be honest with you, I get the booking meeting, but at APW back in the day, and I know you remember this, we didn't do a big group booking meeting out at the ring. They called everybody involved in your match, from the referee to the workers to the agents to everybody, and they called you in Roland's office, and you sat in the office and you went over everything. And it wasn't, I actually hate it. And people always call it at our shows. They're like, hey, booking meeting at 5:45. And I'm like, why? Everybody knows what they're doing. You just want me to go, welcome back, this guy. Hey, you guys know what you're doing tonight? Hey, no, I mean, if you're gonna do a big 30-man rumble, yeah, get all those motherfuckers together. Say, hey, we're gonna go over this, everybody, because there's 30 fucking people involved every minute and a half to 2 minutes. But I don't need to go, okay, Illumide, Surza, you guys are up next, and you got this much time. You guys know what's blah, 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 blah. I don't need to do that. They're fine. They know what they're doing. I just say, hey, man, you're going over. This is where we're going with you guys. This is what we need. Give it to me. And if something like just speaking of those two right there, I remember you were doing commentary. The fucking top rope broke during their match. And I remember afterwards, because you had told one of the guys, hey man, what would you do if the rope breaks? And he was like, I got this. And they handled their finish well. But when the rope got loose, both those guys were still like springing and using the rope. And I look at him and I always, like, one thing it really made me realize with these guys is, so if the equipment is broken, the rope, anything, if your equipment is broken until it gets fixed, you don't use the broken equipment. If the rope is broken, me as a performer, I'm not going to go, oh, I got a spot where I got off to run off this rope. No, I'm going to avoid that broken equipment. And my story changes because of that equipment. And that's one thing I told those guys afterwards, just like you did. I was like, hey, man, the rope is broken. The rope is part of the ring. It's not a weapon at this point. You could have used that rope as a weapon and technically got away with it. And it's a double count out. So you should have choked the heel should have choked the shit out of the baby face, almost lifeless, with the fucking broken ring rope. And because it's a double count out. So at this point, it don't even matter. So I feel for us as the promoters and the bookers, Yes. And I told you that. Yes. And after that last squash match incident, yes, we have to pull these guys aside and go, hey, man, you got 2 minutes and you're going to get the shit beat out of you. And if you don't get the shit beat out of you in 2 minutes, I can't use you because you're not listening to what I'm saying and what I want. Because what you are asking somebody in this squash match is you're asking to get your ass handed to you. We're gonna probably talk about the squash match forever. We're gonna be like, squash match. But it's the truth, man. It's like, go ahead and beat the shit out of this guy, and we'll run that baby down there to save the guy. And in turn, he'll raise the fucking guy who got squashed his arm up, and he'll get over even more. And now the fans are gonna want to see this baby that made the save that we're building take on the heel that beat the shit out of this guy. So there's a reason, a rhyme and a reason why we're asking people to do what we do. And if they don't understand it, they're not going to ask us. They're not going to ask us those questions. So, yes, as a promoter, in my long answer, yes, we have to pull guys aside, even if they've been in the business a couple years. If we know, because we do know, if we know that they're still green or they're inexperienced, we need to pull them aside and just hammer it out and say, this is what I need. Do you have any questions about this? Okay, you have no questions. Okay, so this is what I want you to do, and you have no questions. Okay, now go out there and fucking execute it, because there's nothing worse than all these guys on the internet that punch and type and talk about psychology and this is how to do everything. And then you watch their match online every fucking week and they have no idea how to execute the shit that they're talking about, because they're talking about it and they're like, oh, hey, this guy knows what he's talking about. And then he gets in the ring and you're like, oh, this guy couldn't execute that to fucking save his family's life. You know what I mean? Like, there's a gun on my family. You better execute this squash match. And they're like, no, I'm gonna get an arm drag and a back body drop in. And 3 minutes left, Big Paul. We can't leave him hanging. Close this
Oh
out.
man,
Close this 3 minutes out. Tonight's a big night for me, man. I just keep fucking talking. I'm sorry, man.
that's all right, man. It's I think there's going to be the nights that I go on a tangent and I just ramble on about something I'm passionate about, and I don't think there's any problem with having that. And I think that that's the reason that we're doing this. I'm sure it's going to be misconstrued, and hey, these guys are dickheads. They're talking shit about us because you know how it is, man. It's like you hear something and you go, "Oh shit, that applies to me. They must be talking about me." And if that's what you're thinking, then that's right. Yeah, if it does apply to you, then you should change it. If you see, there's an error in your ways, right? So, and I think we started this going, "Hey, we want to help these guys get better," right? We're seeing like a decline in the business that we love or the vision of the business that we love, and we just want to help out, right? So I don't think we have any malice. We like to have fun and joke around and watch bad wrestling, but it's all really in the with the vision of making everything better and pointing out some things, because I know what it is, and it's people, they watch it and they don't see what we're seeing. They choose not to watch their matches, which are readily available because of these guys videotaping every show, and instead of realistically looking at their match and picking it apart and going, hey, I can do these things better. They would rather go to the back and have somebody pat them on the back and say, hey, great job out there. And then to go, oh, yeah, I know. I did a great job. So hopefully, when this comes across to people, they look at it honestly and go, hey, you know what? These guys have some points. And obviously, we don't know everything. So we're giving our opinion. But
No, nobody does. Nobody does. And that's, you just said it best here within this last 30 seconds. 100% nobody does know everything. And I'm putting over a kid who I don't even know his fucking name, who did an impressive squash match. And even
Right.
in something bad, I'm pointing out the good that's going on in here and what they could do to get better. If I say you're hitting the ropes like shit, just fucking go work on hitting the ropes properly. You know what I mean? Because Paul, at the end of the day, when it's all said and done, we're just going over.
Right.